It's also really important that you learn to document well. Understand that we work from a context of differential diagnosis in a psychiatry clinic and in all of medicine. And a differential is a list of all of the potential illnesses that might be responsible for a patient's symptoms, and we usually rank them in the order of most to least likely. If you understand the differential list we're working from and the corresponding symptoms of each one of those illnesses, you can help us better and more quickly ferret out exactly which condition we think is getting worse. For example, it's not unusual for clients with bipolar disease to initially present depressed. When I see someone with depression for the first time, I'm considering depression, but in the back of my head, I'm also asking rule-out questions around their psychiatric symptoms related to mania, whether or not they've had loss of sleep or a decreased need for sleep, or an increased energy level leading to an increased amount of physical activity. It's important for you to understand the purpose of a psychiatric evaluation. Fundamentally, a psychiatric evaluation is about laying out a patient's life story, but looking specifically at those times that they have an onset of a psychiatric illness, exacerbations when those occur, what leads to those exacerbations, so that in the end we can create a treatment plan that adequately predicts what we think their loss of function is going to be and when it's going to occur to help keep them safe. So it's important then to understand the purpose of a note. Every note should be a logical argument for why you think a patient has this disease over that disease. Again, that goes back to knowing the DSM criteria and being able to ask the questions of each illness to determine which one best fits. You're also reminding yourself and others what's transpired since the last contact and any new and emerging things that have developed. But having a whole life story or a running dialogue isn't particularly helpful. Discuss symptoms in clusters as they relate to specific disorders. If you think a patient has depression, lay out the classic symptoms of depression and which ones they meet, and perhaps which symptoms of bipolar disease or other illnesses they don't express. It's also really important in the chart that you always be professional and stick to the facts about the client. I have seen a number of instances through my career of people engaging in what we call chart wars, where they start blaming other clinicians in a clinical note about a patient's loss of function or worsening symptoms. Remember that patients tell every provider something different. Having supervised residents and fellows, I've been on both ends, where a client told me one thing and told another practitioner something completely different. Remember that may be because of the way a question was asked or something that the client happened to remember in between those two different evaluations. You may not have all the facts. You may have a wrong understanding. And bringing that up in the chart as a way to incite other people isn't helpful at all. Keep it stuck to the facts. You certainly don't want people dragging you out in a chart and exposing you to increased liability.